Hey, what's up everyone? So if you guys have been following my videos and my journey, you know that my ultimate goal is moving from Florida in the US to Sarajevo in Bosnia within a year and roughly 3 months. And in this video, I want to break down exactly what Americans don't understand about life in Europe. To start off this video, I have nothing against America. I mean, the opportunities here and everything that people can achieve is literally crazy. You know, coming here, not knowing the language, finishing college, getting a decent degree. I mean, I got a degree in nursing, but it's decent, like I can live off of that. Being able to switch from that completely to running an online business, buying my initial real estate properties, buying luxury cars. You know, I've owned a Lambo, McLaren. But in this video, I want to break down the other things that people don't see in Europe and the other side of life that I personally feel like America is lacking in. And the first one is a work-life balance. Now, there's pros and cons to this because obviously the more you work, the more you focus on your career, the more you focus on money, the more you can afford, you know, buying the Lambo, buying a McLaren, buying real estate property, you know, building a business and start making a lot of money. But there's also a flip side to that because anyone that you talk to that has money, they're always going to tell you that they don't feel like they're fulfilled. They don't feel like they're successful. Because in life, fulfillment doesn't come just from money. It comes from the other things in life, like being able to take care of your family, creating your own family one day, helping others that maybe aren't that fortunate, and also just having fun and enjoying life. There's a good book called Power of Now that talks about being in a moment. And I feel like a lot of people in the US just aren't in a moment. Even when you do go out with friends or when you're with family, you're either on your phone, you're watching TV, or you're thinking about other things, you're just not there. And it's all about work, it's all about the next step, it's all about getting the next promotion, buying the next car, buying the next bigger house, making the next million, making the next billion. Like, it just never stops. And if you're just chasing the work part, but you're not enjoying the life part, you're never gonna be satisfied. Where in Europe, they do super well on the life side. Now, maybe the work side is lacking, maybe you don't have that much potential, but at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying your life, are you really even living? The second one is about convenience. Now, I get that we all work very hard to have convenience in our life, where instead of going to the grocery stores, you just order it on Instacart. I mean, I do it myself. But then you realize that everything is just built around convenience. You lose the quality of life because with convenience, you start choosing and overweighing time versus everything else. Time is the ultimate thing that we do have, and I get that we should cherish it, but we end up worrying about time so much where we end up not having time for anything because everything's just like, I'm rushing here, I'm rushing there, like buy this on Instacart so I'm not wasting an hour. Get this done online so I'm not wasting an hour. But you get into this rut of chasing and you always feel like you're on a run. But one thing I realized is that you end up losing the important things in life. And I'll give you guys an example. I'm sure you guys have done this. If someone is like, hey, what are you doing Saturday? Do you want to grab lunch or coffee or something like that? You're like, hey, like so far I'm not doing anything, but I'll let you know. And the reason you guys say I'll let you know, and I mean, I've done it too, is because we're worried about missing out on something else better and bigger. Because that Saturday, maybe someone could be inviting you on a boat. And with convenience and time, we end up pulling back where ultimately we end up hurting ourselves. And on the other note of quality, you know, with convenience, there's a lot of fast food. People are just stopping by at McDonald's or Taco Bell or just picking up something so that's faster. Even the healthier ones, I mean, I used to buy factor meals and it was supposed to be healthy, but that chicken isn't organic. Like, I don't know where that meat comes. Like, it's just sealed and packaged and it's supposed to be good for like 2 weeks. That's not good quality food. Now, in a social setting, if someone's like, hey, let's hang out or let's go grab a drink. And one thing I noticed is like when people are in the moment, like say they're grabbing dinner, people are always like looking at their time. They're like, I gotta go. Like, can we get the check? I gotta bounce. I gotta go home. I gotta do this. Like, you're not in the moment. So why even go to dinner? Like, don't go just to check it off. And I feel like at the end of the day, like everything in America is just becoming a check off. Like, let me check this off. Let me check off that I called my grandma. Let me check off that I've seen my friends. Let me check off that I went to a grocery store. Let me check off that I hit the gym, even though you just did 10 push-ups. And sooner or later, I feel like this will just catch up and kind of ruin our life overall in America. The next one is being able to walk. And this might sound crazy, but I love being able to walk to a coffee shop, walk to a grocery store. The reason I moved to Tampa ultimately was because I lived in Jacksonville and you had to drive literally anywhere. If you want to go to the gym, you have to get into a car. If you want to go see some friends, you have to get into a car. You have to drive 20 minutes to the next grocery store. Like, everything was just like a commute. And while Jax does have areas like in downtown that maybe has some location, it just wasn't safe. Now in Tampa, it was safe and you could walk anywhere. Like I'm in Channelside, Tampa, where I can walk to the gym, I can walk to Publix, I can pick up some food, I can go to a fancy dinner. Like I can do almost everything there. And even at one point, my office was literally 3 blocks away. So I pretty much never had to leave the area. But a lot of people don't live like that in America. A lot of times you live somewhere outside of the city, you have to get into a car, you have to travel everywhere. And the reason I think this is very important is because we already sit around a lot. And without being mobile, you kind of start degenerating. If you guys are tracking steps, maybe your goal is like 5 to 10K, you hit that naturally in Europe. Like if you're going to the office, you're walking there. If you're going to get some coffee, you're walking there. You're just active. And guess what happens when you're walking? You see someone, you see a friend, you socialize, you see a dog, maybe a stray dog or maybe a stray cat. You enjoy the trees, you enjoy the weather. Like you're just more involved. While in a car, you're just kind of just sitting there. Like it's very sad to me when I look to the right in my car and I just see someone just sitting there. And I'm like, is this life? Like, are they even enjoying life? Especially when they're like eating their sandwich like real quick or they're like on their phone. Like they're not even present. And even though I do a lot of these things, like, yes, I still drive a car here, I'm trying to eliminate that. Like the rest of my life, I want to change it. Like I don't want to just live to live. The next one is vacation time. How hard is it to get days off in the US and how restricted are you? You probably get 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. If you're lucky, you get 4 weeks. In Italy, they give you roughly 2 months. In Denmark, you have a lot of time off. In Europe, it's not frowned upon for you to take time off. They want you to take time off and you need to take time off. The difference between, here and Europe is here you live to work, over there you work to live. And without living, again, are you inspired to work? Are you going to get burnt out? Now, again, even this key point, there's a good and bad, like on both sides. There's a side that's like, you should be working, don't be lazy, put in the work, like you should work overtime. And then there's the other side where it's like, you shouldn't work at all, you should just live free, don't even worry about money. I'm always in the middle because I get both sides and you kind of need to be balanced out. The only reason I'm trying to bring this back to the middle is because the US is all the way over here and Europe is decent at keeping in the middle. Maybe they're a little bit on this side, but like it's in the middle. And the reason I think this is important is because I meet a lot of people and even though they have money, they're just like socially awkward. Like they're illiterate when it comes to world happenings, like everything just one view. It's either what like Fox or CNN tells them, like they don't know anything else. And in life, I think that people should be well-rounded, but the only way you can do that is by traveling. Like when you go to Guatemala, for example, with me, and I see all these high rises and I see all this money and I see the way to live, even though I travel a lot, I never realized what was going on in Guatemala. And now when I meet a Guatemalan, like I can actually engage with them correctly. And guess what? It also gives me ideas of life. Like, how do they live? How do they live? Like, what do I like about them? What do I like about them? Like, what do I like about the life in France? What do I like about the work methods in Bali? I believe that the world is like a book. And I believe that you should be taking these teachings that the world offers and implementing into your own life so that you do have more quality. Because that week or 2 weeks or that month or the 2 months that you actually take away from work and you go travel, guess what? You clear your head, you see what things you need to change in your life. Maybe you stop smoking. Maybe you invest into real estate. Maybe you start a business. Maybe you meet the love of your life. Like, you don't meet them from your house, into the car, into the office, into the car, into the house. And that's literally what life is. And like, you don't give yourself room for change. And a lot of Americans, and I mean, even me, like I was in that cycle where like, this is the ultimate like cycle. Like there is nothing else to it. And you do this until you're roughly 70, like retirement age, like 65 or whatever. And now you're too old to travel, you're too old to do anything, and then you gotta be in a nursing home for 10 years and you're gonna die. And I don't think that's what life is about. I don't think life is just about going to school, now you're 18, start college, start having a little fun for a year or two, start working, get married at roughly 25, 30, have kids, go to the car, go to the office, go to the car, go home. Or if you work from home, then you don't leave the house at all and you literally just worked to live. And again, in this video, I'm trying to share the things that like I've learned throughout life and things that I've noticed that I think could even be brought into America and allow people to have a better life here versus just being about the next goal. The next one is material wealth. It's hard for me to talk about this because Obviously, as I made more money, I started buying things that were just material wealth, like the cars, the houses, the clothes, whatever, the watches. And one thing I realized is that in America, you're primed to invest into those things and buy those things. And I saw this quote one day, and it was like, these luxury items are out there to take the money away from the somewhat rich. I don't even want to call them wealthy, because the wealthy people, they kind of know that all this is just a waste of money. But when I say that it's kind of primed to take away money from the rich, it's because that's what society wants. Society wants to see you in a Lamborghini. They want to see you wearing a Rolex. They want to see a nice office. They want to see the big house because of marketing. Like, people have this image that they want to create, like this wealthy business owner. In order to be a wealthy business owner, I mean, ask yourself, what do you want to see on that person? Now, the people that have life experiences and stuff like that, some will say, you know, what I want to see in that person is that he has a happy life and his family's happy and supports, you know, people around them. While other people will say, you know, he needs to have a fancy car, he needs to have like a nice watch, he needs to look good, he needs to have like a big house. And at the end of the day, like I said, this cycle never ends, because the more money you make, the better the car you upgrade to, the bigger the house. Now, obviously there's wealthy people in Europe, and a lot of them are also splurging, but it's because they took the way of life from the West. But the thing about Bosnia, it still kind of lives in this like Balkan state, this rugged state, and it wasn't really taken over by the way of life in the West. And when I say this, what they care about are like experiences. They care about the moments where maybe you're with your, you know, grandparents or your cousin, and you guys went for a coffee and you talked about things and you laughed, and those are the memories that stick around. And I'll be honest, like, after I started making some money, like I started like helping other people. I, you know, bought them tickets, or I paid off debt, or like, you know, I did things, but it was never like, oh my God, like, thank you so much, Amel. Those moments were like, you know, I call my grandma like once a week, or where I go and see someone. Those are the moments where like, oh my God, Amel, thank you. Like, thank you for calling me every week. Like, I appreciate it. You know, I love you. These are the situations where people start really appreciating you. And there's no watch that I can buy my grandma that would replace her wanting to spend time with me. And a lot of people don't realize that. And it's not just about, you know, the gifts for others, it's about yourself too. Like, there's no watch, there's no car, there's no house that will make you happier than the time that you spend, you know, with your family, or traveling, or with your kids, or on experiences overall. Like when you go to Bali, or you go to Africa, or you go to, you know, Bosnia, or wherever you go, and you see waterfalls, and you know, maybe you're in the middle of the ocean and it's like crystal clear. Those are memories that stick on forever. I have a 100K watch collection. I never think about it like, oh my God, like those watches are so beautiful. Like, I remember when I bought it, like, no one cares. What I think about is like the time I was in Albania and my car broke down because we literally took it up a mountain, and the car was like literally 10 years old and the seatbelt didn't work. And, you know, I called the people that rented the car, and I didn't speak Albanian, they didn't really speak English, and somehow they came and saved me and gave me another car. Like, those are the experiences I talk about, and those are experiences that people want to hear. And I think that life is a book, and you literally just write your next chapter, and your chapter should be about experiences and life lessons. You don't get those from buying a fancy house or a fancy watch. You maybe learn some things from it. Like, I learned that those things are important, but the item itself, it's not the best investment. And I think Bosnia and some of Europe is still pretty good at not putting these things on a pedestal, and they cherish relationships and experiences more than that. The next one for me falls into safety / responsibility. I saw this video one time, and it was this doctor that lived up in the mountain. He didn't really have neighbors. It used to be a village, but pretty much everyone moved out, and he's the only one left there. He has like a horse, and he's just like involved in nature. And the people that went up there, they asked him, like, what do you think is the difference between, you know, kids right now and, you know, the way you were? And he said it was their responsibility for the community. It was their responsibility for their neighbors. It was their responsibility for themselves. One thing I realized is that we're trying to avoid responsibility like it's a disease. Like, I don't want to be responsible for my neighbor. And when I say that, what I mean is, like, If something's wrong with them, I'll help out. Like if their car is broken down, I'll take them to their job, or I'll call a mechanic, or like I'll help them fix the car. Or if maybe their grass wasn't cut and maybe they're out of town, take it upon yourself. Be responsible for their property. Be responsible for maybe taking care of their pets while they're gone. And the reason I tie these two together is because when someone is responsible for each other, they usually care for each other. And if you care for each other, usually safety is a lot better in that area. And you're not worried about someone maybe stealing your kid or stealing your car or maybe breaking into your house, because you guys are helping each other. And if you're helping each other, first of all, your neighbor will never do that to you, which happens here because we never connected with our neighbors. And the second thing is, even if your kid is out in public, say the kid gets lost, people know each other, right? They hang out, they go to the same schools, like they socialize, they go to the same coffee shops, the same dinner spots, and you start meeting the people around you, and they will recognize the kid and take the kid and call you and say, hey, I found your kid, I'll take them home to you. Here, I feel like if you saw a kid, even if you recognize them like somewhat, meaning like I'm not close friends, but like maybe it's a neighbor, I feel like personally, if I took the kid into my car, someone would call and say, I stole the kid. And that's the problem here. Like everything is, how do I sue someone? How do I punish someone else? How do I blame someone else for something? So like I said, this one is one of the key reasons why I truly want to be in Europe, is because there is a sense of culture, there is a sense of community. People are still there to help each other. Like I even have this feeling like if my car broke down, in the middle of some kind of road, and it was like 1 a.m. and I went to knock on someone's house here, they'll probably come out with a gun, or they'll probably just shoot me before I can even tell them that I need help. While in Bosnia, so your car did break down and there was a random house and you knocked and you're like, hey, can I use your phone to call someone? Not only will they give you their phone, but they'll also invite you into the house, they'll let you sleep over, they'll make you food. Like they'll just take care of you, which I think is a huge human trait that should never get lost. And the last one, which everyone always talks about, is the price of things. I believe that according to how much we make here, the price of things is kind of relevant to the margin, just like it is in Europe. Like if you take the percentage of the cost of things, most, not all things, are somewhat there. But when I talk about the cost of things, it's the actual item and its setting. So for example, a house here in Tampa is $700K, and you're kind of stuck in between these homes. You're like in the middle of nowhere, there's no view, you probably don't have a pool, stuff like that. Now in Europe, you get a house for roughly $500K. Now, according to how much they make in Europe, that is more, but you're literally living like it's a house in California that's $5 million. And that's just one example of the value of things in Europe. When you're grabbing food at a restaurant, and it is a fancy restaurant, the value that you get with that restaurant, meaning the service, the dessert, the presentation, the quality, the views, would roughly be 3 times more here, sometimes 4 times more here. And I believe it's just because Europe was built around the nice things in life. For example, if there's a mountain overlooking the sea, there was something built there. And if there's like a nice waterfall, there's a restaurant there. Do they have those things here? They do. But things like, it's more accessible over there. Like here, when you think about nice waterfalls and like restaurants, I think of Niagara Falls, which is usually like overcrowded, and you're paying, I don't know, 20 bucks for a frozen hamburger, right? And over there, it's not overcrowded. There's waterfalls everywhere. There's restaurants everywhere. Usually they're family owned anyways. And you get a very high quality meal for roughly 7 to 10 bucks. So like the phrase I like to say is that it just hits different over there. Even if you're driving a car through the mountains or by the ocean, it just hits different. If you're buying a house, the views, they just hit different. The service, no matter where you go, it hits different. And to recap this video, I think Europe just hits different. And these are the things that most Americans don't really know about Europe, especially Bosnia. To me personally, I values a lot of things that America has to offer. Now again, I do believe that America is amazing and it offered me a lot of things that I would have never been able to accomplish in Europe or in Bosnia. But there comes a point in life where it's like, okay, I checked that off, what's next? And that what next for me is not another car, it's not another house, it's another way of life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a comment below. I am curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? Would you guys rather live in America or Europe or maybe somewhere else in this world? Maybe Africa, maybe Asia, maybe South America. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram yet, I'll drop my IG here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.